When I'm after I'm very dusty, I just cut through the mortar using the hacksaw, carbide tooth, the elbow blade, and cut through the top and bottom. Every second one is a half brick. That's all it takes. And I'll show you cutting through it. So it goes through it pretty easily. Find the mortar line. Only cut to your depth of your half brick. Mortar line. And that's it. Then just give it a tap and it'll break the mortar. And that's the finish. And then later on, go back and chip off all the old mortar, and yeah, chip off all the old mortar and clean it up, ready for the new full brick that'll go in to join it onto the new wall. Alright guys, we're about ready to start laying our brick. It's all toothed out, it's all cleaned up. I've even marked out where my brick ties need to go on every stud, every 4 courses. And more important as well, the condensation drain seat holes, or what do you want to call them. I've got them one here, and every 3rd brick along I've marked them ready as well. One thing else I sort of figured out just now is, depending on your brick, I've got these Besser brick and they have an opening on one end, and I need to make sure when I put it where a weep hole needs to be that it's flat on both sides, so you get good drainage and you don't get it blocked with mortar oozing out the side of it like that end. Alright, we've got our mixer jacked up at a better height. We've even got our mud in there. That's just about ready to go too. So I'm gonna start laying my first brick, and then we'll come back and show you after the first course. Right guys, if I told you it was easy, I'd be lying. It's a learning curve. Like, I've never bricked before, so this is all new to me. Have watched quite a few YouTube videos on it, and I made the first mistake is when I'm putting the bricks on, I'm trying to put them in this angle level down, where I remember the video the guy was telling me, number 1 rule, always put an edge in first and then squeeze back down this way, because I found once I leveled it all out in line and level that way, all the bricks were tilted slightly this way. So I ripped up the first course and started again, and now we're looking a hell of a lot better just from that little angled in process. And number 1 thing, which many of them don't tell you about, is your mortar. You got to get that at a really good consistency. Too wet, and when you put the brick on it, the brick's weight on itself sinks it down. So, but it's not so much the mix as just letting it sit a bit and start to go off a touch, then start using it, because the more you keep mixing it, the runny it seems to get. So yeah, I'm just finding that mix it up, let it sit, and then when you're ready for it, turn the mixer off, just let it sit just before you're running out on here, turn it off, put it into a bucket and let it start to stiffen up before you start putting it down. Otherwise your brick just keeps sinking. So that's been a bit of a learning curve. I'm getting there now on the second course, and yeah, it's going a lot easier now, but it is a learning curve. Be prepared if you ever want to take it on. Bit of practice beforehand probably would help too, especially to get that mortar mix the way you like it. Alright, I'm going to get back into it. Just thought I'd give you a look at how it's going. Okay, so we've got a few courses down. It's not going fast by any means, but it is nice and level. We're doing alright. Looking fairly straight. Oh, it's straight. And it's, the good thing about this is that because my house is bagged, and if you look at a lot of my other brickwork, you can see they weren't too careful with it because it is meant to be a rough finish on it. It actually gets like a sand mortar-y mixed put over it to give it a rough finish. So it doesn't have to be dead straight, but I'm doing it as best and as straight as I can get it, which is it's within the bubble line, so I'm travelling all right. But yeah, the mortar is your friend if you get it right. If it's too wet and you put the brick on, it'll sink and always go too low. So you've got to get that firmness, but then you can't let it get too firm or you can't get it to tap down far enough. So yeah, definitely a learning curve, but we're getting there. All right, I've called it for the day. It was a pretty warm one today. It's about 37 degrees. And even though I'm under cover, it gets quite warm under here. And I started this a bit late because it's New Year's Day today, so we're up a bit celebrating the New Year last night. Happy New Year to everybody. So I haven't done too bad. We've got to, what was that, 1, 2, 3, 4 and a half courses. As you can see, I've been the 4th course. I added my brick ties, my veneer ties as they're called. Got another 2 there on every stud, every 4 courses. So every time I get to one of these marks, that says to me, yep, you got to put one on. And it's the same as this one. Every 3 bricks has a weep hole. I've got to pull them out. I put them in there so mortar wouldn't fall down there, because I need the bottom of the hole flat, so that's where the water can run out if there's any water in there. Because the whole idea of those and that waterproof membrane is condensation gets between the brickwork, well, hot air gets between the brickwork and your internal wall. Okay, and when it gets cold, that air condensates and it has to go somewhere, that condensation. Where does it go? It runs down the wall. And another reason why these ties are mounted on an angle is so that when water sits on them, the water goes towards the wall, not towards the internal wall, and then it'll run down the internal brickwork onto your membrane, and as that fills up with the membrane there, the water will leak out of your weep holes. And I've got these to go into those weep holes. These will stop little bugs going in there and making it their home, but allow water and air to get in and out of the joint. Alright, so that's where we are. I think it's looking pretty good. I'm getting the hang of it now. So hopefully tomorrow will go a bit quicker. I did notice the last 2 courses went a little bit quicker than the ones before that. So I'm sort of getting the feel for it. And yeah, come back tomorrow and get on with it. Here we are again. Day 2 of, well, you can tell where I've left off and what I've done, and I'm getting a lot more quicker at it. I'm able to get the mortar the way I want it now. So as you can see, I've nearly done half as much as I did all day yesterday, and I've, what time is it? It's 11, around 11 o'clock now, and I probably didn't start till around 9. So yeah, definitely getting a bit more proficient at it. So that's good. Yeah, just a bit of an update, and I better get back into it. All right, this is where we're up to now. I'm calling it for the day. I got as far as 7.5 courses today, so I just about doubled what I did yesterday, which was only 4.5, in a pretty much similar time frame. But it was a lot easier today because I got to stand up more. I wasn't on my knees all day. That was a killer with the knees yesterday, but today a lot better, and we're probably just under halfway. 2 courses below halfway, I'd say. So not too bad for an amateur, complete amateur. And I'm looking pretty straight. If we look down there, and when I put the level on it, the wall's level, I do look, it's not perfect. I do have the odd brick. It's like this one here sitting in a little bit too far, but that's the beauty of, for the first time bricking on a house that gets bagged, the bagging is going to fill that up anyway and you won't notice it. So I am probably being a little bit too careful with this than I should, because bagging is going to hide most of it, or pretty much all of it. I've tried to keep it as level as I can, and it is coming with pretty level. I'm starting to think that level is telling lies, because it's always showing level. So that's a good thing, I suppose. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with the job so far, and hopefully I can do a bit tomorrow. But I do have to go out tomorrow. I am running a bit low on mortar. I bought 8 bags, I'm pretty sure, and I'm down to 3 bags, and I'm just under half away. But I did waste a fair bit when I started, because I virtually had to rip up the whole first course because they were angled. I wasn't checking the angle that way. So now I'm checking that continuously, every brick, and I even go back and check over them once the course is finished to make sure they haven't shifted while I'm tapping somewhere else. And yeah, it's working for me. It's working for me. So there you go. All right, I'm gonna call it a night. I've pretty much packed up. I've just got a few things to put away, and I'm gonna go have a shower. See you tomorrow. Hey guys, just thought I'd mention, when you're installing your ties, okay, you notice how it's on an angle, sloped down towards the outside of the brick. That's what you want, and they're pre-bent on that angle, so it's not hard to achieve that. So something you do have to be wary of is you don't want this being too high, because if it's too high, it's actually going to tilt your brick up, if you know what I mean, and you'll never get that level. So yeah, have these sitting as low as you can, resting on the brick. Ideally you want it on a hollow section, but you're not always going to get that. So sometimes you will have to sit it on just a flat piece of brick, and the mortar here will have to grab there. It won't be able to grab underneath. It's just, there's no getting away from it. If you can move, you do have a bit of movement on your stud line. So I've marked the center, that's the center of my stud, and I can go a little bit over this way or a little bit over that way, but you've only got from centre there, you know, you've only got like 20 mil either side, so it's not a huge amount. You can move it left or right. So you know, sometimes you're just going to have to bite the bullet, and hopefully it just grips on the top. I mean, you've got so, that's why probably you've got so, they say put one on every stud, so that, you know, if one's not gripping, hopefully the one above it will, and all the ones below it will do everything, and it ties everything in together. Just thought I'd mention that. Quick update, we've done another 4 courses. So I have to use a step now to reach the bricks. So definitely making some progress. There you go. Check you soon. Okay. Progress for day 3. Not too bad at all. We managed 8 courses today, I think. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. About 8.5 courses. Okay, here we are on day 4. And I have 2 courses left to go. I don't know if you can see up there, but I've still got one more above the current row. And then there's another one that's behind that bit of wood. There is a 3rd one up there, but it's like a half cap brick. So they've got a brick and they've cut it in half. I may do that, I may not, because I don't know if you can see there's like a lentil there for my veranda. A bit of angle line there, and that won't allow me to get that high anyway. So I think I'll go 2 more courses, and that will probably be enough because I've got the veranda fascia in front of it anyway. 2 more courses to go. Finish that off tomorrow. It's getting pretty difficult because I'm running out of room at the top there. But I think I'm going to do lay out 2 bricks, or even 1 brick, and then do the brick above it, and then lay out another brick and do the brick above it, because it'll be a half overlap of every 1 brick, and that'll give me the room to get my arm in there to do the next course. Because if I do that next course and then go back and try to do the next one, I'm going to have to do it all from above, and that's a little bit more difficult. I think it'll be easier if I just put 1 brick and then lay the top brick, which is a half a brick shorter than the brick on the bottom, and just keep doing that until I get to the end. I think that'll work. We'll test that theory tomorrow. All right, it's step 6 time for me. So see you later. All right, guys, brickwork's done. Finally, it's taken me close to 4.5 days. Like I said, I am a beginner. First wall I have ever done. The only other sort of, I suppose, bricklaying you could say I've done was I mortared in the edges of my pavers, and I think we can all agree it's a little bit different to doing a wall. Yep, real eye-opener. Look, I wouldn't say that anyone can do it, but you know, if you have a bit of practice and gain the knowledge, anyone probably could do it. It's not rocket science, but it is. You have to be. How would I say? You have to be very persistent with checking your levels, and yeah, just check every brick. Well, that's what I did. And look, it's not perfect by any means, but I didn't start the wall over here wasn't perfect to start with, because it has a bow in it, and I checked that with the level. And so to match up where the joins are, I had to mimic that bowing, and then I straightened it out as I went, which wasn't easy. But hey, we're done, and you know, luckily it's in a spot where you're not really going to notice any imperfections, because once it gets rendered, it's all going to blend in really nicely, hopefully. So there you go. I averaged probably to a 20 kilo bag of mortar about 2.5 courses. Just depended on the mix too. If it was really soft, I used more, because I had to build it up so that when the weight of the brick got on there, it sunk down more, which means more oozed out. So I lost a bit more on the inside. But if it was too dry, yeah, sometimes you couldn't compact it down enough, and that made it difficult as well. So yeah, getting your mortar right is a key element to it all. Too soft is good because you get a lot of squish, but you use more mortar. Dry, you know, it's easy to put up there, but it's harder to compact it, and if you're a bit high to squash it down, usually you don't get a lot of give on it if you leave it too dry. So you sort of got to find, and it's a very, very fine line between dry and wet. Yeah, it's just like a couple of squirts of that bottle can make the difference between being just that little bit too dry to getting it right. Yeah, it's a bit of fun. And for some reason, once it gets too wet, or once it sort of gets too soft, you can add more. I tried adding more dry mortar, and it didn't seem to make any difference. So yeah, it's a bit of a strange thing once you get it too wet to try and come back from that. You're better off just really sneaking up on it than going over, because I just couldn't get it to dry out. I used probably, I don't know, about that much out of a new bag, and it still didn't dry up. So I sort of gave up and put it on the board I had, that board on the wall there, and spread it out a bit, let it dry out for maybe 10 minutes, and then it became at a state where it was quite good to work with, rather than being a bit too wet. Yeah, so still a lot of work to do. I still got to cut and throw a brick in there. I might do that now because I've got a little bit of mortar there left, so I'll cut that brick and I'll throw that in there, and that'll be the end of the brickwork. So then I can get rid of that mortar, and then I've got to cut that plaster cement sheeting for above there, nail that on, and then work out how I'm going to fill this gap. That's another thing I'm not too sure of now. Yeah, that one's going to be a bit of a, have to sort that one out. I had something similar when I put a new sliding door in over here, and I had a gap between the door and the brickwork, but it was a lot wider than that one. So either I do the same thing or just try and caulk it all up. Anyway, I'll get back to you once I've done a bit more. See you later.